Hey, I'm Diego Dante. This is the Rise Above show presented by roofing.com. This show was created to showcase leaders who are rising above in their business life, in their personal life. And for those of you that haven't followed along in my journey, I have been on a journey the last year to improve my personal life through weight loss, through improving my marriage, in all aspects of my personal life. And so by doing this, I've had a lot of conversations, great conversations with people who have reached out to me and said, hey man, I'm in the gym for the first time because of something I saw that you posted on social media, or whatever it is, because I've been so focused on being social and posting on social media whenever I've been making these changes and losing weight and keeping people updated on these things. And so I said, man, there's got to be a way that we can share a story on a bigger level so that we can impact more people, and we can not only share my story but share the stories of other people who are rising above in their businesses and their personal lives and their spiritual lives and whatever it is, right? So that being said, that's why we created the podcast. And today's episode, we sit down with Hunter Ballew. He is the founder of Cornerstone Construction, which he built, he scaled, and he exited in a period of about 3 years. He's also the founder of roofing.com, who's presenting this podcast, and they host RoofCon, and they have REVOLT and all these things, and he's involved with Fueled as well and RepCard. He's a big entrepreneur in the space, in the industry, and I wanted to bring him on as my first episode because he's a man that has impacted my life greatly, and I have a lot of respect for the man. And so we sat down, we talked about how he recruits top talent. We talked about how he's been involved with Maxwell. We talked about a lot of different great things that I think if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to get a lot out of this episode. So I invite you to sit down and listen in on my first episode of the Rise Above show with Hunter Ballew. So let's get to it. All right. We are live on the first episode of the Rise Above show. What's up, man?
You don't do that again?
I mean, I can.
I was hoping you would notice. I think this.
You got one of my cards, man. What the heck? How you doing?
Doing good, brother. How you?
Good. You kind of caught me off guard there, but because I was going to introduce you, but now I don't know that I want to. No. So
started with some sarcasm. First show.
Yeah.
First show.
No. Hey, people got to know though. We want to make this authentic. We want to cut up and stuff and have a good time. But man, I just wanted to bring you on here, introduce you a little bit. I know that you get asked this 5 million times on every single episode, but for the sake of this, I wanted people to know who you are. Who is Hunter Ballew? So if you want to introduce yourself, give us a little bit of background, what you bring to the industry, how long you've been, all those things.
Yeah, appreciate that, man. So Hunter Ballew, small town, Travelers Rest, South Carolina is where I'm from, where we're sitting right now in the office in the podcast room. So after high school, I didn't really know what I was going to do professionally. I just knew that I wanted to go in the Marine Corps from a really young age. So went to the Marine Corps, came back from that. I did the reserves, did that 6 years. So after about a year of training, I had to figure out what I wanted to do full time to make money and kind of make a life of my own. And so I went to the fire department, started at the fire department as a volunteer, got sent off to the academy, South Carolina Fire Academy, did that for a few months, got certified, came back, was super blessed to get a job right away. There was a lot of guys looking for jobs, and I was just really blessed to find a job within like 2 months of getting back from the academy. So I started that job, did it a few years, went and got my EMT certification so I could get my little pay raise. I started off at like $24,000 a year at the fire department. Big money, dude. But then when I got my EMT certification, elevate.
You're driving the Lambo.
$34,000.
Man.
$34,000. So I got the little pay raise to $34,000. I was always hustling on the side, man, because if you know anything about the fire service, you work 24 hours on, meaning you sleep at the firehouse, you take showers at the firehouse, you got to deal with other guys at the firehouse. So 24 hours on, 48 off. And I was always hustling on those 48 hours off, doing my own thing, trying to make some extra money. And so, yeah, man, it just real quick, within a couple of years of being at the fire department, for one, I felt like I was more passionate about business and had more opportunity to make an impact outside of the fire department. And I was already making more money than I was at the fire department outside part-time. So I knew that if I left, I could scale faster, do bigger things. And at the time, like, I just wanted to make six figures. I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 30 years old. And so I finally left the fire department in 2015. 2015, it was December 22nd, not long after me and my wife Maggie got married in June of that year. So left the fire department, started a marketing agency. I didn't really know anything about marketing. I just figured I could figure it out. Soon after I started the agency, I landed one of my first clients was a roofer out of Minneapolis. Started working with them. We had a ton of success in our first few months together. I was like, man, maybe I should just focus on roofers. And so you know the term lead gen. A lot of people know lead gen for lead generation. So I started a company called Roof Gen for roof generation. And just wanted to focus on roofers, not focus on any other industry. And in that, I started a company called Cornerstone Construction that a lot of people know about that we've since sold just as a case study. We said, hey, I don't know anything about roofing, so if I can take this roofing company that I don't know when I say I don't know anything about it, like literally difference in arc and 3-tab, like the pitch of a roof, I didn't know anything about roofing. So I had to hire the right people to be able to help me grow that company. But I figured if we could use that as a case study and grow that company, then we'd be able to bring on more companies that actually did know something about roofing and add an extra 7 figures to them. So we did that. We grew that for almost 4 years, not quite 4 years, 3 and some change, and then ended up selling it to a public company out of San Diego. And in the process, we started roofing.com and REVOLT and RoofCon, the conference, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. And I know that you obviously with Cornerstone Construction, that's how I got the foot in the door with you and with the team here at RoofCon, roofing.com. So I actually wanted to tell the story of when we first met. Hunter brought me in to an interview after I had lost my job, as a marketing supervisor for a company that I was working for, and I got in to meet with Hunter, and Hunter pitched me on this idea. We have this foundation where we're helping kids, and we got all this awesome stuff we're doing in the community, and he showed me pictures of stuff that you were coming into the classrooms and teaching kids, and I came from this company culture that really there was no company culture.
Right.
And you bring me in and you show me all the stuff that you guys are doing. You showed me a video. I think you guys had just jumped some cars over the fire, done stuff like that. And so I remember I went home that day and I was super excited. I was telling my wife, oh, they do all this stuff. They're jumping cars over the fire and they're helping out the community and they're doing all this stuff. And my wife said, that sounds amazing. What exactly is the job? And I sat there for a second. I was like, I don't really know. Yeah. I was like, it's a project manager, construction company. Like, we'll figure it out, And so I got in the first day, that first sales meeting, and I remember sitting there. I didn't know anyone. And Albert gets up, the production manager. He's talking about how to getting roofs approved through the insurance. And it's like, he's talking about the roofs. I was like, oh, they must be doing a lot of roof projects, I guess, for a construction company. And then he says, so don't be afraid to climb up there and take pictures of the damage and stuff. And I said, wait a second. I did not realize, that's when it hit me, this is a roofing company. And I had no idea up until that point that was the case. And how, I guess from there, I'm sure that I know that you guys have changed your recruiting a little bit, but
it's always funny to hear you tell that story at retreats and stuff, and we typically tie it into talking about vision, casting, and having a culture that really just attracts people. And so obviously, as we've automated more and built in better processes for recruiting in the funnel and the videos they have to watch before they even get to the office to interview, like we disqualify the people that don't enjoy climbing on roofs, so we don't waste their time or waste our time. But back in the day when it was just me recruiting, it was really just selling the dream.
On the vision,
yeah. Like if we can help you achieve your dreams and it's fun and you make an impact, you're probably willing to do whatever. Like if you know that we care about you, you're going to make an impact on the community, and you're going to have fun and also fill your bank account, then you're probably going to do it even if you're afraid of heights.
Yeah.
And we saw that with you.
I think that one thing that you're really good at is obviously you're really good at recruiting. And one of the examples that I was thinking of before this is when we brought in Michaela to do her interview. So for anyone who doesn't know, Michaela's our director of events and operations at REVOLT.com. So what happened when we brought in Michaela? Do you remember that?
Yeah. So Michaela actually applied to be my executive assistant. I don't know if you remember that, but when I took the phone interview to talk to her about the EA role to help me out and keep my stuff in line, she started telling me about her experience with events, and I was like, man, I don't even think we had an ad out at that time. I'm almost positive we didn't have an ad out for events manager. Like, I don't know what we would have done at RoofCon 2020, because it ended up, being huge in comparison to the year before. Like, we went from 40, 50, maybe 60 people in 2019, our first event, November of that year, to October of 2020, during the middle of COVID, having 881 people. And I have no clue what we would have done without Michaela. Like,
because you brought me in to do marketing and do a little bit of sales, but really neither one of us had experience planning anything like that. It would have been the bro
show, just like, hey guys, come and figure it out. But yeah, so Michaela starts telling me about her event experience, and I'm like, we have an event, and we're like, when was that, May or June of 2020?
That must have been probably closer to April.
Okay. So April, maybe May. Yeah, so like 6 months maybe. October 15th, 2020 was RoofCon number 2. And so maybe 6 months before, and just kind of had an intuition of like, hey, maybe she is a fit for the event space instead of being the EA. And we talked a long time. She's telling me about her experience, and I'm like, well, I don't want to throw something on you completely unexpected, but would you be interested in this? And her ears perked up. She was pretty excited. She wanted to be in the event space more than anything. And if you know anything about me or hear me talk about recruiting or speaking or any of that, I'm all about action and work ethic. And I'll have little tests that I'll give people when I'm hiring them to see if they have that desire, like how bad they really want it. And so I think it was probably, we're here working late, like 6:30 or so, probably at night. We were here a little bit late for an interview, at least. Not late for us.
It was definitely dark.
Yeah. And so I'm like, hey, how fast could you be at our office for an in-person interview? And she's like, I could probably get there like within an hour or so. She lived pretty far away, and she's like, I could get there. I'll come. And so she comes, she shows up, she's all dressed up, which is not our thing. I'm in basketball shorts right now, like we're always chilling. And later on, it's probably a year later that I actually asked her, like, hey, did it take you so long to come because you had to get dressed up for the job interview and you didn't know how relaxed we were? And she's like, well, yeah, it was that, but I also had to get my mom to come with me because I was afraid you might be a freaking serial killer and murder me.
Just going to a warehouse in Travelers Rest
and I'm like,
at
wait,
night.
You had your mom with you? She was like, yeah. She was like on the phone and in the car the entire time. So Michaela came in. We did not kill her, and she's been great. And her mom was happy to know that we were safe people to be around.
I think with that, you hear so much right now about job shortages or staff shortages in America, and I think there's a lot of people that miss the mark right now. I guess, where are people missing the mark right now? Because I don't think that there's a lack of people really, wanting jobs. I think it's, there's just, I think people are realizing right now that there are companies like this to come work for, and I think a lot of people are missing the mark. So where do you think people are failing with that right now with recruiting?
Yeah. In terms of leadership, man, I think it always comes back to just impact over income. Like at the root, like maybe that isn't what you think of. You think it's a recruiting problem, a messaging problem, a pay problem. But at the end of the day, like if you truly care about your team's success more than you care about your own personal success as the owner or the manager or whatever your role is, like if you really care about your team's success and their fulfillment, their happiness, you're going to win. Because they're going to do their job 110%. They're going to fill some gaps where maybe you need another role. Maybe you need another person on the team to take care of something, but you don't have the cash flow to be able to do that. If you take care of your people, you're going to have utility players that are willing to step into that role. We've seen that with you and Michaela and William, and the list goes on and on and on. Like sometimes you guys have to shift and pivot, and that's not, quote unquote, the best when you talk about operating systems and some of that stuff. But dude, it's just business. Sometimes you just got to be willing to pivot and get stuff done as a team, and we know we have each other's back.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the podcast for a second, because this is something that came about here recently, the last couple of weeks. We talked about it, and then we move quickly around here. So we say, hey, we're going to start a podcast, and then a week later, we're sitting here in a studio making it happen.
Shooting a podcast.
Yeah. So something really interesting, and I might butcher the quote, but you said something along the lines of, if you feel right about something, I'm not going to fight you on it because I just want to win in the end. Yeah. So can you expound a little bit on that? Because that's something that really impacted me in the sense of, I feel like if I have an idea that I can bring to the table and I feel like it's going to be valuable, I feel now even more than ever that I can bring that to you and say, hey, what do you think about this? How can we make that happen? I think as a quote unquote employee, that's a huge thing for me. Right. So can you expound on that?
Yeah, and I hate the word employee. Like
that's why I say it in quotations.
Yeah. Like I usually use the term team member because we are a team, and like maybe somebody's a captain or someone has to be the coach or whatever, but the score does not get racked up and you don't get the W unless everyone does their job as a team. Like you can't not have a first baseman and win the World Series. So, for me, man, we talk about, you talk about that quote. And for me, I think everything in life, everything is in business with you and your wife, with you and your children, with you and your team members, with you and your pastor, your best friends, like everything is perspective. Everyone has a different perspective. And oftentimes those perspectives clash without really trying to seek understanding. And so with our team here at Cornerstone, when I still had Cornerstone, at Fueled, like all the different companies, RepCard, I try to make it real clear with everyone on the team that sometimes we're going to have a dispute. Sometimes we're going to maybe butt heads or get into it. And that's just me being raw and real here in this podcast and open up, being transparent. Like, it's not always going to be Gucci and flowers and sunshine and smiles on. Like, sometimes we're going to get into it because we have a difference of opinion, a difference of perspective. But at the end of the day, if me and you both have this agreement and we know that we're only doing that because we want to win, it's not an ego thing. If we could put ego aside, if we could put insecurities aside and say, hey, we're going to maybe clash a little bit and show our difference of opinions, but it's only because we want to win, that's a good place to be. Yeah. It is. It's a healthy place to be for me. I truly believe that. As long as we can be open enough to say, hey, you think this way is the best, I think this way is the best, let's have a healthy conversation of why you think that and why I think this and figure out which is the best. And maybe at the end of the day, it's a mesh of the two and we figure out a way to make it both work. But at the end of the day, you just don't want to have people walking around that think that you just have to have it your way. Because there's plenty of times that as the boss, as the main guy, as the owner, people are going to think you just want it your way. And I tell you guys all the time, and even though I try to beat this in everyone's head, sometimes it may not be taken the right way. Sometimes you've already put in some work on a project and I come in and ask you to change it, and I'm sure it's like, dude, I've already put 3 hours into this. I don't want to change the way this design looks, but it's only because I want to win. And if you can show me and tell me and prove to me and convince me that your way's better, let's do it, man. I'm just in it for the World Series. Yeah, for sure. Well, let's chat a little bit about our mutual friend John Maxwell for a second, because I know you've been hanging out here. I know you posted. I wouldn't talk about it if you hadn't posted it on social media. Don't make me blush, man.
But I know that you went on a trip with him, and a couple trips now, I guess, with him. So, with spending some one-on-one time with John Maxwell, and for anyone who doesn't know, John Maxwell is an author. A lot of leadership books, really a big, from what I've known you for a little while now, and I know that he's a big influence in your life, and he's influenced me as well, and he was a speaker at RoofCon. So from spending some one-on-one time with him, what have you learned from him?
Dude, you said keep the podcast under 30 minutes. I don't know, what were we at? We're like 15
minutes?
William's going to kill us if I talk about all of it, so I have to keep it real short. I could talk for hours, man, and
give me the highlights.
Yeah. So it's really funny, man, because I go to a lot of events. I'm in a lot of masterminds. I'm about to leave Monday for a mastermind out in Vegas, and Mike Tyson will be there, and a bunch of big names like that. And I'm always at these events, usually at least once a quarter. I'm around a celebrity, and you have the opportunity to shake their hand and maybe ask a question and take a picture. And I'm this weirdo that like doesn't want to take a picture because I'm just not. I try not to be a fanboy. You know?
For sure.
But John Maxwell is the real deal. Like he is the real deal.
Yeah.
I've been super blessed since RoofCon to really get to know him and have an intimate relationship and travel with him to Hawaii, travel with him to the Dominican Republic. Just went to his office earlier this week, checked it out, and to see the impact he's made in this world in his 74 years on earth is unbelievable. You know, I got to tell you a little bit about it at lunch, and I was just telling you how it's almost you can't even put it into words. And like we do some really cool stuff with the events, with the retreats, with the conference, with all the stuff we do in the roofing and solar community, the free Facebook group, with Fueled. Like we impact thousands of people every year, and it feels good. And you know, every week at minimum, I get messages of people thanking me, thanking the team for helping them. And then you go see someone like that, and it just, dude, if you have any humility, it humbles you, and you're like, I got so far to go. I have so far to go. Without him saying anything to me or training me at all, just watching him and seeing the lives he's touched and the people he's impacted, and then the people that they've touched through them, but because of John. Like, you know, I don't know if you were in the room during the Platinum meet and greet, but John kind of shared that, you know, he created this certification program so you could become a certified speaker and trainer and coach, leadership coach, through the John Maxwell Leadership Foundation. And that's kind of his thing. And he put his name on it. And he said originally, like, he was fighting his team on it. Different perspective. And so, you know, he said, I don't want to put my name on it. I don't want to hurt my name from a couple of jacklegs going out there and doing something dumb and dampering my name. And eventually, you know, they convinced him, they're like, you have to weigh the odds, the impact that can be made by you training all these people and multiplying these people versus addition of you going out there one conference at a time versus these people now all have conferences they can speak to and retreats they can lead. Imagine how many people you can train. So he shares that story on stage at RoofCon. And then I share with him on stage right after that. He had no clue. I didn't tell him this because, again, I try not to be that fanboy and be like, oh, I'm one of your coaches. But back in 2018, I was, you know, a couple years, just over 2 years out of the fire department. You know, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do long term. I was doing pretty good with Cornerstone. I wanted to be a better leader. I wanted to be a better speaker. I wanted to be a better coach to the guys. And so I went and got trained by John and his team. And when I say coached by John, it's not like me and John sitting here. Right. John's working with thousands of people at a time, and you're in a room with 3,000 other people. And so he had no clue that I was a coach. And so I looked at him on the stage, you know, and was like, hey, had you not put your name on that, we may not be sitting here today because of you and you putting your name on all these coaches and allowing people like me to come through your program and get certified, build our confidence, build our self-worth, help us be better speakers and trainers and coaches, very well may not be here today impacting all these people at RoofCon and on these REVOLT retreats if you didn't do that. So it's kind of a cool, like, emotional moment we had afterwards of, like, that is so cool to hear the story, man, and know that you're just one of the many that have been able to help impact people. That's
crazy, man. Well, good for you, man, for being involved with that, and I know it's got to be a great experience. I'm going to hit you up with a little bit of a rapid fire to end things up. Yeah. So I have 6 questions for you. 4 are going to be kind of deep questions that are going to tie into the theme of the podcast, which is to rise above.
Yeah.
And then the last 2 will be just more fun questions just to end it. So, and I'm going to give you 30 seconds max to answer each question, okay? So question number 1, it's rapid fire, all right? So what has been your biggest failure and how did you rise above?
Yeah, so biggest failure I'd say is not recognizing problems that team members are having within an organization and maybe not communicating well enough with them. There's been times where I've had like a high level leadership team member that says they're happy. Like, I ask them surface level. I feel like I do a pretty good job of asking the team, trying to have a connection with the team. But dude, we've gotten to the point where we've had over 100 employees before, and you can't connect with everyone, but you try to connect with your leadership, and then your leadership connects with middle management, and middle management connects with the rest of the team. So having the deep conversation and really understanding where they are and making sure they're happy. Because there's been a couple of times where we've lost people that weren't truly happy or truly fulfilled, and I could have done a better job of meeting them where they're at. Maybe there's no way to solve it. Maybe there's nothing our organization could do, but still just making sure that when they do go somewhere else, that we can best support them and that they still have love for us.
Love it. How will you know that you've succeeded in business?
Yeah, that's great, man. In business, for me, it's a lot about delayed gratification, right? I don't need to make a ton of money right now. I know that payoff is coming. We saw that with Cornerstone. Cornerstone, I never worried about making a ton of money. The first time I made 6 figures from Cornerstone was the year before we sold it. And I literally did that off of rebates. I didn't even pay myself a salary. The rebates, it was just like, hey, here's a little reward for doing so good this year. Yeah. Made a few $100,000, but delayed gratification. And so making sure that the team knows that as we delay that gratification, maybe we don't pay as high of a salary as someone could make somewhere else. But long term, when we exit this company or we really start to crush it, the profit, people know they're going to be taken care of with bonuses. Or when we exit, like with Cornerstone, we took care of I think just over 40 people, got some kind of bonus for being a part of the team and helping us build it.
Yeah. How do you deal with imposter syndrome?
Yeah, that's great, man. I think just surrounding yourself with people like John, like it's different for everybody. Like some people want to hang out with Ed Milet, some people want to hang out with Grant Cardone, John Maxwell, whatever. And it may be people in your local town too. But hang out with people that are ahead of where you are, so you can see all that you have to accomplish. Because you're all going to deal with it. I seriously doubt there's anybody out there, no matter how big you get, that at times you don't think, why me? Why me? Why me? And one thing John talks about a lot is, for him, like he leads with leadership all the time, that he wants to develop leaders, but ultimately he's trying to win people to Christ. And he knows for him that it's only Christ that gives him the strength to do what he does. Like he says, hey, I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not good looking enough to accomplish all this. It took a higher power to help me accomplish this.
Yeah. This is the last of the business questions. What book changed your life? It's not even it's not even business, it's more professional. But yeah, what book changed your life?
Dude, man.
Gotta pick one.
Just one?
Just one. All right, let's do this. Where are we on time? I'm gonna give you top 3.
Even that is, let's say The Difference Maker by John Maxwell, because I got to give him some love since we're talking about it. The Difference Maker talks about attitude. It's a short read. Absolutely, go get it right now, The Difference Maker. If you can't afford it, hit me up in my DMs. I'll send you one. We've probably got 100 in there that we give out at retreats. The Difference Maker is number 1, talks about attitude. That one's more about personal. Number 2, I'm going to say Blitzscaling as a good business book. Blitzscaling by Reid Hoffman, one of the guys that founded LinkedIn. Amazing book. And if you read it with an open mind, don't read it and say, oh, this guy had a tech company, it doesn't apply to me. There's so much power in learning from people in other industries. Not just your industry, but people in other industries, because you can take what they do, bring it into your industry and innovate. So Blitzscaling is a great book and it's helped me in many, many ways. And then, dude, there's so many, so I'm not going to pretend that these are just my only top 3. I can't narrow it down. When I was young into the entrepreneurial journey, trying to figure it out and was not making a lot of money, I read The Power of Broke by Damon John, and it shares a ton of stories inside of The Power of Broke that will inspire you to keep going. And everything, again, everything's perspective. So how can you leverage your hardship right now and realize that it's an opportunity? It's something that if you've got your back pinned against the wall, there's only one way to go, man. Yeah. You just got to put your head down and go. And so the bad experiences, the failed marriage, divorces, bad relationships with your parents, like those are all opportunities for growth and to lead other people eventually through the same situation because you have that experience.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I've heard you say, this is specifically for you, I know I've heard you say a lot that your biggest addiction is business. Yeah. So outside of business, what is your non-work related hobby, your favorite non-work related hobby?
Man, having a little boy now is a ton of fun. Little man's about to be 3 years old. It's the 2nd, so 2 weeks from today, December 16th is Turner's birthday. We're in the process of adopting another, and I have a lot of nieces and nephews, and me and my wife Maggie, we just love kids and hanging out with the kids. So I really enjoy having the kids around, like when it's time to decompress and not focus on business at all. I love having the kids around, but really, like, this is a weird one to say as a hobby, and maybe it's not a hobby, but for me it is. It's just relationship building. Like when I'm traveling, I'm not like traveling. I just went to, you know how many people in the last month have been like, oh, must be nice. You went to Hawaii.
I hate that phrase so much, but must be nice.
Yeah, I literally went to Hawaii, Dominican Republic, and Myrtle Beach like within 30 days. And my
top 3 beaches in the world. Man.
Yeah, Myrtle for sure. And my feet never touched the sand one time in any of the 3 places. So like for me, it's usually not even about sitting on a beach and relaxing. Like I have a hard time doing that and checking out. Like I want to be doing something and active and moving towards my legacy that I want to leave. So relationship building to me is huge. You know me, I just got back from Myrtle Beach last week. I told you I went and met some people down there. I just went to Atlanta for 3 meetings down there 2 days ago. I'm about to leave for a 10-day trip where I'm going to go to Vegas. I'm going to go to Salt Lake City. I'm going to go to Bear Lake. So relationship building is huge for me. The only one I'm missing is Jonathan Sherwood's conference. You're going to that one because it's Turner's birthday.
Yeah. Well, this is the last question, and this might be the deepest of the questions that I ask you. Okay?
Yeah.
One of the 2 has to disappear forever. Texas
Don't say Texas Roadhouse or Waffle House.
Yes.
No.
Texas Roadhouse or Waffle House, one of them. And it's not like you never knew that they existed. It's you knew that they existed, but they're shutting down forever.
Let's see. That's tough. You know, Texas Roadhouse is in more cities. Like when I go out west, I can usually get Texas Roadhouse. I can't get Waffle House. So that's a plus for it. However, there are more secondary options that are close to Texas Roadhouse, like Binion's and Longhorn, that are pretty close seconds to Texas Roadhouse. Huddle House ain't got on Waffle House. So
Man.
I guess I'd have to get rid of Texas Roadhouse.
I feel you on that one. I thought about that one.
Can we not publish that? I don't want them to hear that. Like,
Well,
they might get mad.
We can edit that part out. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on, chatting with us, and
I'm gonna put you on the spot, man.
Let's do it.
All right, Rise Above show.
I figured we'd probably get an episode in here where I get to introduce myself a little more and talk about my story and all that stuff. But go ahead. I want to let's get this part out.
So you started off by saying, hey, you know, I challenge the team. I challenge you a lot of times to say, hey, if you think it's going to help us win, let's do it. So why do you think the Rise Above show is going to help us win, but more importantly, our community win of people that we care about, love, want to see grow?
So for those of you guys that don't know a lot about my story, haven't been following, I've been on a journey the last year or so, specifically with weight loss, but other things in my personal life to be able to improve. And I've been extremely vocal about it on social media, super public with everything. And every time I get messages from people, hey, you inspired me to get back in the gym. You inspired me to this. You inspired me to that. And it's just, I mean, it's gotten to the point where we did a fundraiser in June called 100 Mile June, and I had 50 people that ran it. We ended up helping 4 families to adopt. We'll talk about that a little more in a future episode, but all that to say, it's incredible the amount of influence that you can have on people, and I think that doing something like this called the Rise Above show, where we can talk with people about the experiences that they've had in moving through challenges, be that in business or in their personal lives. I want people to be able to have something where they can consume it on their drive to work and then be able to get to work and really ponder on the things that they want to improve on their lives and be able to make changes in their lives for the better.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you having me on. Appreciate you taking the initiative to do it.
Yeah, man. I'm excited for this first episode. Got it out of the way, and I know we'll be seeing you a lot more because we just a few doors down from each other. So thank you guys for tuning in. First episode of the Rise Above show. We'll see you next week. Peace.